All right, get your jokes out early. Whatever. You wearing white shoes? No. Not, well, kinda.
Panda dunks.
Yeah. We're both wearing white Nikes. Anyways, this is Canucks Conversation. Harmon Dial and I are matching. Like, right down the Canucks Army hoodie, everything. We weren't expecting this. I don't know. We could have taken the hoodies off, I suppose, but your thoughts?
Really unfortunate luck this season, man. This is getting kind of embarrassing.
And we haven't even started talking about the Canucks yet.
Yeah, the alternative was wearing my blue
big jacket,
like massive jacket, which I would have sweated bullets in. So that wasn't a realistic possibility because this studio gets hot.
It does. It is hot in here. And Paul Papadoulis saying, that's a big hat. Yeah, I'm wearing my Hartford Whalers too. Of course, I can't show the logo, but there's a Hartford Whalers logo. Am I allowed to acknowledge that, Jacob? Am I allowed to say that there's one?
Yeah, that's fine. You can say that you're wearing a Hartford Whalers hat.
Okay. If you can't tell, also, Nick Pochak in the chat, it looks like a cult recruiting video. Let's get to the hockey. Let's get to Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. My name is Dave Udrelli. That is Harmon Dial, here to break down a Canucks loss to the league-leading Vegas Golden Knights by points percentage. Vegas Golden Knights, the best team in the National Hockey League, and the Canucks certainly made them look like the best team in the National Hockey League last night. I alluded to our chat a little bit earlier in the show already. If you want to be part of the chat and you want to make sure your comment gets read on air, hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Our super chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation. Okay, Harm, let's get into it. LC250 in the chat early saying, are we going to talk about JT and Petey? Yeah, we are going to talk about JT and Petey. Can I start there?
Sure.
Can I start there? I'm not going to start here like, oh, I wonder which one of them pissed in the other one's cornflakes. I wonder why I wonder maybe someone bumped into another one and gave him the shoulder, and maybe there's this, maybe there's that. I'm not going to do that. You know what I'm going to do about JT Miller and Elias Pettersson? I'm going to tell you some stats, Harm. I'm going to tell you some stats. And the people on the Facebook, I see you. Go ahead and clip this, Jacob. I see you in the Facebook saying, oh, you guys are so dramatic. You're so loud. You're so emotional. I'm going to read these stats to you in the most monotone voice possible. I can. Still don't think I got that right, but I want to say this. Okay? Elias Pettersson, 5 games without a goal. But let's focus on this. Pettersson and Miller have combined for 4 5-on-5 goals this season. Pettersson has 3. Miller has 1. I'm going to tell you some other players who have players themselves who have 4 5-on-5 goals this year. Remember, Petey has 3. Miller has 1. Monotone voice. Teddy Bluger has 4 5-on-5 goals. Denton Heinen has 4 5-on-5 goals. You want some league-wide names, Harm? Joel Edmondson has 4 5-on-5 goals this season. Ilya Mikheyev has 4 5-on-5 goals this season. There, I talked about JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. People wanted us to talk about it. There it is. That's the story with JT Miller and Elias Pettersson right now, if you ask me.
Both of them have looked off this season. Pettersson, we thought, was turning a corner, and now he's pointless in his last 5 games. I'm still waiting for his skating to get back to where it usually is, and we know that he has a clunky stride. Mechanically, he is not a pretty skater, but there was a clip surfacing on social media the other day of his OT winner a couple seasons ago against St. Louis in 3-on-3 OT, where
just carves them up, wheels, picks up steam through the neutral zone, and you're like, when do we get that version of Elias Pettersson back? And this is where, even objectively, you look at the NHL edge data, the speed bursts above 20 miles per hour, they're down compared to where they usually are. And again, I wonder about, not to make excuses by any means, but I still wonder about the knee tendonitis that he was dealing with in January last season, and how significantly is that impacting his skating ability? Because I just don't see any dynamic puck carrying ability from him. And look, we know that he's not the flashiest
McKinnon or McDavid level type of player. Pettersson's offensive impact is more subtle. It's more about IQ. It's more about timing. It's more about playmaking. But still, when he's at his best, you see the sparks of creativity. You see the sparks of taking guys on one-on-one, beating them. And he just looks flat on way too many occasions this season.
Mike Lavely in the chat. Miller is getting a lot of time with Hughes, and he's still not scoring. With JT out, we saw Petey with Hughes more, and he had 15 points in 10 games. Canucks need another puck mover. I ask you this, Harmon. Have you also had the thought of, okay, JT Miller needs the softer matchup. Like, use Elias Pettersson as a matchup center, put him out with Quinn Hughes. That's how you're going to take down teams. It's not going to be the other way around where JT's your matchup line. And I think the bigger part of this question is, well, you can't clone Brock Besser. So who's Petey going to play with on this matchup line? And is he going to find success there?
I'd maybe consider it if Pettersson was still clicking, but how can you say that he deserves matchup minutes right now when he hasn't scored in 5 games?
But I think the idea there is that he hasn't scored because he's not out with Hughes as much as he was before. That to me, that's what Mike's saying in the chat there.
And that's a fair point, but that also means that he's not going up against the other team's top line. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just you get to play with Quinn Hughes more. There's only positives with this. You're going to take on tougher matchups, which I think Pettersson can handle, and maybe it's worth an experiment. But I don't know that that's a silver bullet that's going to get both of them going.
That's fair. That's fair. You don't know if it's a silver bullet, but one thing that I do think might be a silver bullet is putting them on the power play together. Are you ready to transition to this conversation? Because I've just had enough of this. Like, it's enough at this point. I don't know if the coaching staff was trying to send a message. I don't know. Again, we're not diving into I wonder if they pulled up to a 4-way stop at the same time and couldn't decide who goes first. It's the person who's on the right, by the way. But we're not going to dive into all this. We're going to focus on the hockey. And what I saw last night was the power play split up again. It makes no sense at this point. Connor Garland can't finish right now. He's not doing much in your power play. I know he's there more for the zone entries and for the puck retrievals. I know that's why Connor Garland's on the power play. But, man, you are overthinking it if you don't just have your 5 best players on the power play. And splitting up Pettersson and Miller, again, it's overthinking it to a T.
For sure. I mean, with Garland on the left half wall, he's just not a shooting threat. Penalty killers don't respect it. They can cheat towards Hughes, and in effect, it becomes a 4-on-4, especially when Garland isn't at a point where his confidence is very high with his finishing. He hasn't scored in 10 games. He's been flubbing scoring chances, and we know that his finishing is the weakest part of his game. So you've got an opportunity to have Pettersson and Miller both on the half walls. It's worked in the past. You've got to put your most skilled players on the ice.
Teams aren't respecting Connor Garland. Like, penalty kills aren't respecting Connor Garland. He's not a shooting threat. Like, we know he's not a shooting threat. Teams know he's not a shooting threat. They're not even going to Connor Garland. When Connor Garland gets dangerous when it comes to shooting, he has the puck, and then he moves closer to the net, and he gets in tight. And he's shifty and tight. I give him that. And this isn't supposed to be a knock on Connor Garland sort of thing. But, man, you were overthinking it if you don't have Pettersson, if you don't have Miller in that spot. Like, that is where JT Miller should be on the power play. It's where Elias Pettersson should be. I don't even care how you configure them. I don't care. Put your best players on the first power play unit. It's silly at this point. I've had enough.
Yeah, I will also say this, though. Even if you get both guys on the top unit, the execution on the part of the players needs to be so much better. Last night against Vegas, we're talking about flubbing elementary plays where you've got an easy opportunity to get set up. During the first period power play they had, for example, I noted an errant pass by Pettersson back to the point, which completely the puck left the zone. He was really under no duress there, sort of an unforced error. Then later on that same power play, Besser had a really sloppy turnover. Miller came on later, and he went offside, just so sloppy and messing up plays that players of this skill level and caliber should not be screwing up in a 5-on-4 situation.
Nils Hoglander. We're going to talk a lot about things that happened last night. there's a lot to get to, and I'm sure we're going to talk about Miller. I'm sure we're going to talk about Pettersson as the show goes along. But Nils Hoglander, his first healthy scratch of the season last night. I don't even want to ask you where do they go from here, because now it's just hope. Like, now it's just hope that he figures it out. You can't put him in the top 6. I think you can play him. You probably have to play him. Linus Karlsson shouldn't see Pettersson's wing. Not saying Hoglander should, but Linus Karlsson shouldn't be back on. I saw one game of Linus Karlsson, had enough. I'm done. That was good enough. Actually, it wasn't good enough. That's why I don't want to see any more of Linus Karlsson. And I don't want to turn this into a let's break down why Linus Karlsson's not an NHLer, but we all know he's not an NHLer. Okay, seen enough of Linus Karlsson. Get him out of the lineup. There's your 1 game reset for Nils Hoglander. Back in the lineup. For Nils Hoglander, it's hope at this point. For the team, when it comes to Nils Hoglander, it's hope. It's not. I don't think there's anything that the coaching staff can do to figure this out for Hoglander. I think we're past that point. Dare I say we're past the point of no return with Nils Hoglander, where it's just like he has to get moved at this point.
We're trending towards that.
I'm there.
Direction.
I'm there.
He's got to figure it out himself, but he 100% has the talent and skill set to do it. So onus and responsibility is on him to have that consistent work ethic, to show those details away from the puck, because the bar is really low. I mean, we saw both Karlsson and Phil DiGiuseppe in the lineup last night. There is no world in which Hoglander, over a stretch of however long you want to pick, shouldn't clearly outperform those guys with the track record that he's shown in the NHL.
But the points this season, hey, if you give Linus Karlsson 31 games, he might be able to get the same number of points as Nils Hoglander, just by existing.
Sure, but over the next 30
games... And I'm not
games,
taking away from your point. Yeah. I'm just saying that, man, I'm trying to illustrate just how bad Nils Hoglander's been this year. And that's why I think we're at that point now where it's, and people in the chat saying, well, Nils Hoglander has 0 trade value. Okay, he also has 0 value to the team right now. You're getting to that point. And I'm there. I'm there at that point where I'm looking at it and saying, a team like Buffalo, if they come around and say, hey, we'll give you whatever for Nils Hoglander, and it's something that you think might either help you in a future trade or it's going to be something of value to you, okay, if it comes down to Nils Hoglander for a third pairing defenseman who's, better than Noah Juleson and can probably play with Carson Soucy on that second pair right now. I know there's a lot of people, the Canucks have enough third pairing defensemen. Okay, well, a 4-5. If you have a 4-5 on the table, not a 6-7, which is what they have playing in their top 4 right now. If you have a 4-5 on the table for Nils Hoglander, so yes, a guy who's going to play in your second or third pairing, if that's on the table for Nils Hoglander, you have to take that at this point.
Yeah, but I don't think you're getting that.
Fair point.
Especially on the right side. I mean, what number 4 or 5 defenseman? We just saw Borgen go. We just saw Carrier go.
Yeah. Well, the Carrier price... Carrier, Justin Barrett sucks.
Sure, but you also didn't want to fit Carrier's contract.
That's true.
Beyond this season, if you're being realistic.
Well, you definitely don't want to fit Hoglander's at $3 million beyond this season in Vancouver. It's not an option. That's why I'm saying we're at this point. It's not an option at this point to just hope that he figures it out. It's not going to work.
I mean, why is it not? He kind of has to.
Are you planning on?
He has no trade value right now.
Harmon's on fire Tocchet, I guess, because he's definitely not figuring it out with Tocchet as the coach.
I mean, he had success last year. It's not as if he's never had any success with this head coach.
So what's going to get it going for Nils Hoglander?
Okay, so this is the issue, right? When a player is at the lowest ebb of his trade value, everybody wants to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to get rid of him.
The plan's simple.
Nobody has any
trade
patience.
the bad players for good ones.
And then when the player's succeeding, then everybody's like, "Oh, can't trade this guy." How many times have we been through this in the market? And I'm not saying Nils Hoglander is gonna do the Brock Besser, Connor Garland thing, but when Connor Garland was really struggling, everybody was like, "Oh, get rid of him, just get the cap space." Same thing with Brock Besser. Oh, just take the cap space. And guess what? They held on. They figured it out, and now, was that the right move, or should they have paid sweeteners to get off those contracts?
Fair enough. Hey, I don't think you're paying a sweetener for Nils Hoglander. That's the thing that I'm trying to say. He's still, and I get it, he has 0 trade value, but he doesn't have negative trade value. He's got low trade value, but it's not you want to take Nils Hoglander? You're going to have to pay up for that. It's not Ilya Mikheyev.
For sure.
It's not that.
But it's just the way you framed it was holding on to him isn't an option. I mean, it is an option, yeah. Why would it not be an option?
Because I don't think he's going to figure it out here. I really don't.
And maybe he doesn't. But if he has no value right now,
So if you hang on to him,
what do you hurt? Well, okay, what hurt? How does it hurt you to hang on to him until closer to the deadline to see if he can bounce back?
okay, well, we're talking. Okay, closer to the deadline is fine. I'm talking the end of this year. You can't hold him through the deadline. I'm saying he has to go. Like, he has to be out of Vancouver. I don't care if you wait till February to do it. I'm saying it's over. Like, to me, it's over. There's no figuring this out. There's no world in my
Beyond
mind.
this season is
even
probably
if he
over.
bounces back, where they're like, oh, okay, thank God, that was just a hiccup. We can keep him for these 3 years that we've signed him to. I don't think there's any scenario where that happens. If he starts playing better, I think you look at it and say, oh, thank God, maybe this will put teams off the scent that we need to get rid of this guy. They got to get rid of him at that point.
That's fair.
That's what I'm saying.
My point was this idea that, you got to get rid of him right now. I agree with you that beyond this season,
It's not going to work. Because
I don't
here's
think
the thing,
it's-
Harm. If
it's
this
gonna work
happens
out with him.
again, and he's at $3 million, and now you have this season and another season where this is happening in Vancouver, that's when you start to get into that territory of negative trade value that we just talked about. I don't think he's negative trade value right now, but the longer this goes on, and certainly if it goes on for another season, then you're in that territory of negative trade value. I think we spent enough time on Nils Hoglander. Did you want to, I don't even want to talk about the back end too much. Susie Wilson, we gave them their flowers on yesterday's show. That pairing was going to have its limits, and it looked like the Vegas Golden Knights was that pairing's limits last night.
yeah, although, to be honest,
And they were fine.
especially on the second leg of a back-to-back, we spent time focusing on the lack of production from the top-end guys. I mean, we know Pettersson, 1 goal in his last 11 games. Miller, 1 goal in his last 10. Besser, just 1 goal and 2 assists in his last 7. Connor Garland, no goals in his last 10. For me, it's as simple as I thought the rest of the team and the depth guys did their job, did their responsibility, especially because I don't think the Canucks gave up much at all. I think they played the perfect road first period. They gave Vegas nothing. They were defending the slot well. They gave Vegas very little off the rush. The only issue was the lack of offensive generation, which just goes to the top of the forward lineup. And so because of that, I'm not going to sit here and trash the team for the performance. For me, it's as simple as, again, second leg of a back-to-back against a Stanley Cup contender. You have that type of first period, and overall you have a game where you don't give up too many high-danger chances. That's a good effort by 80% of the team. Now it's just on the top of your forward lineup to actually produce and give you that offensive juice.
It's on the top guys. Like, you go up and down the list. We're not going to do Quinn Hughes slander on this show, but we've been saying for a while now that Quinn Hughes can't do it alone, and I think we're seeing that right now, that he can't do it alone. He can't play 60 minutes a night. He was pretty much neutralized last night. I think that's fair to say. And I don't think that's on Quinn. I think that's a good opponent in Vegas looking at the Canucks lineup and saying, wait, so we just shut this guy down? Nothing else is going to happen? Perfect. Sign me up. And I think they did a good job. I think that was their game plan, and I think they did it well. And that's not on Quinn.
Especially because he's without Philip Hronek. There are, Myers hasn't played poorly, but there are so many little instances where he makes a certain read or he attempts a pass that isn't the right play, that it's death by 1,000 paper cuts as far as that pair's ability to control play at an elite or dominant level. It's just they don't have that chemistry that Quinn and Hronek do, and I think that's a big part of it. I think it's a part of the story as well. The workload that Hughes is taking on and how much is expected of him. So Philip Hronek can't come back quick enough.
He can't come back quick enough, and Rasmus Andersson can't come quick enough. Okay. Who the hell's Leighton Ahak? I had to Google that. Apparently he
plays for the Abbotsford Canucks.
When did they get this guy?
He's a local guy, and he was at Canucks training camp.
Do you remember Leighton Ahak?
I remember the name. I'd be lying if I said I remember actually watching him play.
What handedness is he?
I don't know.
Jacob, do you know?
He's a left shot defenseman. He's played 4 games for Abbotsford this year. But
Well, you can't look at his hockey DB page when I ask you that.
I knew he was a left shot. But anyways.
4 games for... Come on. Who are you kidding?
They brought it up because Leighton Ahak, as well as Canucks PT, or sorry, was he PTO?
PTO, yep.
Yeah, Dylan Ferguson both made Canada's Spengler Cup team today.
And Matt Irwin, you said.
Yes, and Matt Irwin, who played for the Abbotsford Canucks last year.
That's fun. I'm glad Matt Irwin's doing that. That's just awesome because he's retired. Like, he announced his retirement in the offseason, so he's coming out of retirement to play in the Spengler Cup.
And then we should also mention that our colleague Blake Price will be in Switzerland to call the games for TSN. He'll be on play-by-play for the Spengler Cup.
Wow.
Super cool.
That's super cool. Yeah, good for Blake. That's exciting. That's really good. Okay. Is there anything we haven't touched on enough from the Vegas game? Because I feel like we got to enough about the Stars. I feel like we even talked about Quinn Hughes. We've talked about Nils Hoglander. I think one positive is Kevin Lankinen.
For sure.
He was really good. Goaltending's been great. Demko was great. Lankinen's great. The road record for Lankinen takes a hit last night, but again, it wasn't on Lankinen. You know, one thing, speaking of positives, Harm, one thing we didn't really say, Canucks played great to start the game. Could have had a 2-0 lead. Aiden Hill absolutely stones Pia Suter at the side of the net. Denton Heinen has a great chance created by him and Kiefer Sherwood. I thought the Bluger line was actually great. I thought the bottom six was pretty good last night. So let's get into some positives. Kiefer Sherwood, Denton Heinen, Teddy Bluger, that trio was great. They were the best line for the Canucks. Great news for that trio. Bad news for the Canucks. I somehow turned that into a negative, but I'm just looking for some positives last night, and I thought the Canucks played pretty well to start that game. Now, did they run out of juice? I don't know if that's the case. I feel like it was more a symptom of they had a lead, and they were very scared to lose that lead, and they stopped playing the way that got them the lead in the first place. And could have got them a 2-0 lead. I thought they were just flat in the second half of that game after getting the lead.
Yeah, and again, this is why outside of the top six lines up front, I thought the team played really well, considering the quality of opponent, considering the fatigue of playing that second leg of a back-to-back on the road. You couldn't have asked for a better first period. They came out flying. They were so disruptive. They were right on top of guys, where when Vegas was trying to transition the puck up the ice through the neutral zone, the Vegas defenseman would make a pass to, let's say, a winger on the half wall, and there would be a Canucks skater right on top of him, immediately applying pressure, taking away time and space. I thought the gap control that the defenseman had at the start of the game was really good. There was just one Jack Eichel rush where he looked dangerous near the start that there was maybe a bit of a breakdown, but outside of that, they gave Vegas very little. Through the neutral zone, I thought they boxed out well in front of the net. Mm-hmm. They had sticks in lanes. They blocked a lot of shots. They just defended the middle exceptionally well to begin the game, and it's just difficult to sometimes sustain that because such a hard-nosed, gritty style. To do that for 60 minutes against Vegas, like, the fatigue is going to set in at some point.
They keep coming at you.
And you started to see in the second period that, okay, the Canucks weren't able to as consistently drive play up the ice. The forecheck didn't have the same level of speed and energy. And again, I don't really criticize the team for that. I think that's more just a reflection of the circumstances, the travel, the schedule.
I was waiting for someone else to bring this up. Brad tweeted this, or mentioned this in the chat here. He said, can we talk about Juleson falling down at least once per game while defending the rush? Have you noticed it too?
Yeah.
Like, skating backwards is hard. I can't skate backwards. Can you skate backwards?
Not very well.
I can. Yeah, I can do the, when you wiggle your legs a little bit and you start to move backwards. I can do that. I can't do like hard pushes backwards.
You can't do your backwards crossovers.
No, I can't do that. No. And apparently neither can Noah Juleson, because my goodness, the guy keeps falling down when he's trying to skate backwards. And in all seriousness, I have noticed it. I was waiting for someone else to bring it up before I said it on the air. But yeah, I've noticed it. Like, it's the skating backwards starting to get really tough off the rush for Noah Juleson, I've noticed.
Yeah, we also got to talk about the end of game sequence.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Okay, take it away.
What a disaster. Like, I don't know what else to say. That was
do we have it, Jacob?
A comedy of errors.
Okay, so here it is. And for those on the podcast, unfortunately, you know what happened. My big gripe with this is that right here at the 1:30 mark, the Canucks have the puck in the offensive zone. Lankinen should have been off the bench or on the bench by now. Okay, now Juleson has it at the back end. There's a problem.
Watch Juleson too. Like, he's so confused. He's like he's got his palm up to the bench. Everybody was talking about like JT and Lankinen.
Yeah.
I think Noah Juleson was confused with like, when do I get off the ice, or what's going on with the goalie and the extra attacker.
Do you really want me out here? Really? Is this what we're doing? I'm skating. Okay.
And then as JT's skating up, he can easily gain center and dump it in, but instead goes cross ice to Pettersson. That's a really bad decision.
Isn't
That's
that
a
Susie?
brutal.
Wasn't that Susie? That wasn't JT that made that pass, was it?
I'm
Jacob,
pretty sure that was
replay
JT.
it. Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right. That's JT.
Yeah.
Wait, is it? Awesome. People in the chat.
Oh, I think it might be Susie.
It was Susie.
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
Susie.
My mistake.
Okay. Well, it's okay. I agree
Either way,
with your
brutal
mistake.
decision by
Whoever that was. Trade him. Whoever that was, get him off the team. Yeah, it was Susie with the like the piss missile pass to Pettersson's shins. You know what? I will say, I like our chat, because I did see on Twitter immediately people, well, Pettersson turned the puck over. It's like, nope, that's not how that play developed. That's not what happened there. That's just not what happened.
My apologies for JT for starting to throw
damn
him under the bus.
JT. But JT is a story on that play as well, because we were about 2 seconds away from a Colin Delia 2.0 situation, which I loved that Shorty even brought that up on the broadcast, but he didn't want to name names. So he was like, oh, almost similar to Winnipeg a few years ago. It was great by Shorty.
I'll be honest, is it a hot take that I didn't have that big a problem with JT's body language there?
Well, I did, because I don't know if Tocchet actually wanted Lankinen out of the net, and I agree with Tocchet. Like, okay, this is hockey philosophy, and I know people disagree. So there's going to be people that disagree. I don't agree with pulling the goalie when you're still in your own end. And I understand the whole, well, now you have an extra guy at the line for the defense to contend with, and now you can enter the zone with 6 guys. I understand the argument for it. I'm not saying that my way is the best way. I'm just saying if I coached a hockey team, I would have pulled the goalie when Sherwood had the puck in the offensive end. That was when you pull the goalie in my mind. And then you wait until you gain the zone for the goalie to come out. You come out halfway, but you don't do this, okay, JT's standing behind the net and he's telling Lankinen to go, he's telling Delia to go. And dare I say that I think Bruce Boudreau and Rick Tocchet agree with my philosophy that you don't want to pull the goalie in that sense and you wait a bit. I don't know, and I don't want to sit here and speculate, but I wondered, because clearly Tocchet had his hand up and wasn't telling Lankinen to come right away. And then after the palms went in the air and after the body language, then Tocchet said, okay, come out of the net for Lankinen.
Yeah, it depends on the nuance and the context. You're right. I'm just biased maybe because I do believe I saw an extended highlight pack. I think it was by Mike Kelly of NHL Network, who showed that a ton of examples in games where it actually is beneficial to, in that situation, even though you're breaking out from your own end, to pull the goalie early, because you have a better chance of just like gaining the red line and then dumping it in. The problem there is like the players poorly executed that, where you don't go cross ice. You gain the red.
It's kind of a
rim it
theme
in.
with this team right now is the players are not executing properly. Also, the Mike Kelly thing. How many of those that he ran and looked at had Noah Juleson on the ice for the extra attacker? And I'm joking, of course, but to your point, like, I agree with you.
Yeah, but
it's
also
sometimes beneficial to have those guys out there, but they also need to know what they're doing, and nobody knew what they were doing there.
Yeah, the whole sequence was just a mess. I also agree with you that when Sherwood was chasing the puck down in the offensive zone, that was the optimal time. But to me, the at that point, if you're just looking, you got like a minute 19 on the clock, you're behind the net. To me, it's just the goalie should be going.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not blaming that on Lankinen, whether that's on the coaching staff making that decision or some level of miscommunication. They waited too long to pull the netminder, and I
think you and JT Miller agree.
Just a messy sequence.
Yeah, you and Miller agree on that one for sure. Yeah, and again, what are we doing here? The problem isn't when the team chose to pull their goalie. Like that's not what cost them the game last night. It's a continued trend of their stars just not being stars. So much so that in the chat people were saying like this team doesn't even have stars. I get it. I get the frustration. But like 7 all-stars last year. The team has stars. You need your stars to step up. How many games have been for Quinn Hughes without a goal now? And this isn't the same as a Pettersson Miller thing where I'm like, okay, these guys need to step up and be there for the team. This isn't that when it comes to Hughes. This is because nobody else is pulling their weight, even Quinn's numbers are going to start to fall off. Because
Tampa game was his last goal.
Tampa game. 5 games ago?
It was 6. He's 5 without a goal, but he's got 5 assists in those 5 games.
Okay.
He's 6 without a goal.
Sorry, 6 without a goal, but he's got 5 assists in his last 5 games.
But I'm more just focusing on the forwards.
Fair. Quinn needs help though. This team needs help. They need that top 4 defenseman. I think that's clear. The break's gonna really benefit them, I must say. You have to hope. Hopefully they do okay against the Ottawa Senators tomorrow night, and of course they take care of business against the San Jose Sharks. Macklin Celebrini, we'll talk about him on Monday's show, I'm sure, but Macklin Celebrini is so good. I'll put you on the spot. If you had to pick right now, would you rather have Macklin Celebrini or Connor Bedard?
For their careers?
Yeah, for their careers.
Bedard.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, don't fall into the recency bias.
I am. I like Macklin Celebrini a lot. I like what I'm seeing from him a lot. And I mean, Bedard's two-way game was never something that people were talking about. People were talking about Celebrini as, oh, well, he's going to be really good defensively. Maybe think of him as Jonathan Toews. He's great offensively. I'm loving both ends of the ice for Macklin Celebrini.
I don't even want to
entertain this.
Well, no, it's not that what you're saying is ridiculous. It's just I remember last season when off the air, you were
no, it was on the air.
It was.
Oh yeah, you can tell this.
You were talking about how Celebrini,
Shane Wright.
Thought he was like a Shane Wright type, projected number 1 overall pick, and I'd written an article. I'd watched a ton of his tape in the NCAA, and I was telling you this guy's legit. He's underrated because he's in the shadow of Bedard being the number 1 pick last year. So I was on this train of I think Macklin Celebrini is really, really good. I think he is underrated for how good he is. And you were having none of that, and now you're on the show here. And I'm the one that apparently isn't high enough on Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah, you got to be a day one Mac guy. We call him Mac. His friends we all call him Mac. I'm glad you brought that up because, and I'll tell you, no shade to Cam Robinson, all these great draft guys, Stephen Ellis that we have on the show. They're fantastic people. But I did say to Harmon, and I said this on the show, so I'll remind people. But I just said I can't get excited about Macklin Celebrini. And you're right, it probably was Bedard fatigue because everybody told me to get excited about Bedard, and everybody got excited about Bedard. But I said to you, I'm like, man, everybody at one point was like, oh, Shane Wright. Let's talk about Shane Wright. Slips in the draft. Not great at hockey. I had fatigue, and I told you, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not excited about Macklin Celebrini. Again, hadn't watched a lick of tape on him. Just told you, my vibes take was that this is silly. I don't want to talk about Macklin Celebrini, but now I definitely want to talk about Macklin Celebrini. I think he's fantastic. I think it's great to see a young player, able to understand and think the game the way he does. Like, his defensive reads are phenomenal. And there's a video out there. Shout out to Hockey Psychology on YouTube. There's a great video. I think I sent it to you as well. Great video about just how he reads the play and how he anticipates so well. And how, again, we talk about Elias Pettersson's defensive game, and there was something that came out today talking about how great Pettersson's been defensively this year, which, sure, we can talk about that, but obviously the focus is on not scoring right now. Macklin Celebrini, especially for an 18-year-old, it's crazy to see this from Macklin Celebrini right now. I'm really happy for him. It's great.
Yeah, if you read my article last year, that was the number 1 thing I was talking about was, wow, look at how advanced he is physically. Look at how great he is defensively.
Akito Hirose was advanced in college.
Yeah, Akito Hirose was 30 years old playing in college. It's not the same when you're 17, 18, and all these guys are older than you.
Fair point. Paul Papadoulis is very happy that you're taking a victory lap. You never really do that. This is literally what I'm saying right now. Nick Pochek, he said, sorry, Macklin, I wasn't really familiar with your game. I wasn't. I really wasn't. And Broke Shinobi in the chat, regular listener of the show, said Hockey Psych is a top 3 hockey channel. Yeah, I really liked it. Hockey Psychology. Really, really solid channel. Vids are really, really good. Okay, let's get to tomorrow's game. Canucks Senators, obviously it's Saturday, so we're not going to have a show, but Canucks Senators, let's quickly break this one down. unfortunately for the Canucks, the Senators are one of, if not the hottest team in the National Hockey League right now. They are absolutely humming. That crybaby of a captain that they have is even starting to turn things around. He scores a goal in overtime last night against the Sea of Red. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Flames, the Red Hot Flames as well. But the Ottawa Senators right now are just getting phenomenal goaltending from Linus Ullmark, and I think that is the big story for me, is that Linus Ullmark just isn't losing games. He's not like Linus Ullmark. If the Senators aren't the hottest team in the league, Linus Ullmark is the hottest goalie of December in the league right now.
For sure.
Absolutely. Undoubtedly. 2 shutouts in his last 4 games now it is. Again, only lets in 2 last night against Calgary, and quietly Calgary's playing great hockey right now. Not an easy opponent last night for the Senators, and Senators again took care of business. They weren't easy.
Okay, hold on.
They weren't an easy opponent.
Just say quietly they're playing great hockey.
Yeah. There it is. No,
The
seriously.
Flames are 3-4-3 in their last 10. They're playing great hockey.
That's why it's quiet, because the record doesn't show it. Dude, I would take what the Flames are doing right now over what the Canucks are doing right now, undoubtedly.
quietly great hockey.
They are. They're
Over about
okay.
a team that's 3-4-3 in their last 10.
Did
That
you
is
see the high stick last
absurd.
night? I'm just saying. Did you see the high stick in overtime? Right before Kachuk's goal?
All I hear is you whining every
I'm not-
week about some
no.
call that went against you.
I'm just saying, like, and I wasn't even doing the bit there. I'm dead serious that the Flames, if you watch the games, Harm, if you watch the
Oh wow, okay.
if you watch the games, I'm serious. The Flames are okay. If the Flames
They're
and Canucks,
all right. They're fine. They're mediocre.
their record
I'll
is
give you.
mediocre.
Wow, they're quietly mediocre. There you go, Quads.
Speaking of mediocre, Canucks are 16-16 on the year. Did you see this? Dead 500. I feel like I'm watching the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, they haven't been very good this season.
Now I'm doing our countdown over at Canucks Army. Not to take it away from the Sens. We'll get back to the Sens in a sec. I'm doing our countdown over at Canucks Army right now, and we're just recounting the top 10 news stories of the year. And one of them is when the Canucks got stranded in Buffalo. You remember this? They're playing,
Yep.
right? The snowstorm. Almost a full calendar year ago. Do you know what else I found while I was working on that article and going back and looking at the source article about them getting stranded in Buffalo? Do you know what I found, Harm? That the Canucks win against Buffalo on January, I think it was the 13th, gave them the best record in the NHL. They had the best record in the NHL almost a full calendar year ago in January. This team is hanging on to a wild card spot right now. And the Pacific's still wide open. Like there's still time for this team to go on a run. But you can't tell me that it's not a little bit concerning that they are where they are.
But in the first half of last season, they were riding this historic PDO bender.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna change. Like, it's gonna change the narrative around the team. It's gonna change the results. They weren't gonna have their entire bottom six shooting like 20% like
Sure.
they did, and it made their offense look way more prolific than it actually was. Because in terms of actually generating quality looks, shots, chances, they were a below average offensive side, yet they were one of the most prolific offensive teams in the NHL because every fourth shot that they took was beating goaltenders.
And while that's true,
And they were getting Vezina caliber goaltending.
well, that's true. Do you know what the biggest thing that concerns me about this year's team compared to last year's team is? It's not that all the pucks aren't going in or whatever, and I know this kind of correlates, but like this team hasn't been able to string together wins at any point. Like that's concerning to me. And we've talked about the inconsistency all season long, but last year's team, they were going on like 6-7 game win streaks. And I know it all plays into what you were just talking about, but to not be able to put like 3 wins together consistently, 2 wins together consistently, like that's really concerning for this team right now because that's just not going to fly in the playoffs. It's not going to work.
It's a mystery box in terms of what version of the Canucks you're going to get on any given night. Are you going to get the version of them that can lock up the Stanley Cup champions and shut them out? Or are you going to get the version of them that can lock down the Colorado Avalanche? Or are you going to get the version of them that just leaks odd man rushes
To the Boston
like nobody's
Bruins.
business? It's really hard to predict these
Who do we
days.
get tomorrow? As you say, it's really hard to predict. Who? Give me your guess. Give me your best guess. Which version of the Canucks do we get tomorrow? I'll tell you, I think they bounce back. I think it's a strong performance tomorrow. I think tomorrow's a home win.
Okay, sure. I don't get like vibes for like individual games over stretches, perhaps. I'll also say this though: the storyline regarding the lack of offensive production from the top players plays pretty well into the Senators' defensive success and how hot Allmark has been, because I'm looking at the Senators' last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, 2 or fewer goals against by the Senators in 7 of those 8 games. The exception being a 4-2 loss against the Isles on December 8th.
Oh, I thought that was a win. Okay.
So it is against the Sens. It's been 1 goal against, 2 goals against, shutouts. They haven't been giving much up. Now the Sens are also prone to anytime it looks like they're turning the corner and they're in a playoff spot. They're liable in the past to shooting themselves in the foot. So we'll see. But with Allmark playing the way he is right now, with the Sens tightening up defensively, and also when you look at their 5-on-5 profile, them being a team that legitimately controls play well, the Canucks, it's not going to be easy for them to generate offense, and they really need Pettersson and Miller to start driving play like they did last season.
Okay. Anything else on the Senators that you wanted to say?
Nope.
Okay, let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. We were there for the first viewing party of the season back in October, and we're going to be there for more throughout the season, so don't miss out. But even if we're not there, you certainly should be. Just minutes from the arena, come by before and after the game or whatever event you're downtown for with arcade games, weekly drink specials, and the recently updated street food menu. Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Bowen Byram. People want to talk about Bowen Byram. I don't know who said it. I don't know. No, I think it was Dollywall. I think he said it on Halford and Bruff. I'm trying to give proper credit. I think it was Dollywall said that the sense he gets is that they really like Bowen Byram. Something along those lines. Sorry if it's a misquote. Let's talk about Bowen Byram, is I guess what I should have said. Bowen Byram. Do you like him as a fit for this team? Because I can't get past the concussion issues, to be honest with you. And I know we talked about it earlier this week, but like, if it's Rasmus Andersson or Bowen Byram, and I think both are going to cost you a king's ransom, I go for Rasmus Andersson.
Yeah, I'd say Bowen Byram is a high-risk, high-reward target. Not just because of the injury history, but the overall inconsistency in his own game. I remember watching him on Colorado during that 2022 Stanley Cup victory. And in the Stanley Cup final, he led the Colorado Avalanche, all skaters, in even strength minutes. He was a two-way monster. He looked like a star defenseman in the making. The way that he could skate, move the puck, activate offensively. He'd cleaned up his defensive game. He was leveraging his size to win battles down low. You're like, this guy's a two-way monster. And I think he was, in his early 20s at the time. So you're thinking, this is just the beginning of him taking that next step. But since then, the inconsistencies are a big reason why the Avalanche traded him in the first place, mixed in with injuries, of course. And then it's a case of figuring out exactly how good is this guy. We know he's a top 4 defenseman, and he's having a pretty good year in Buffalo right now. But it's this weird player type where he looks good by the eye. The microstats, when you look at his zone exit numbers, show that, okay, he legit drives play. And yet, when you look at his overall 5-on-5 analytics, a lot of times his team doesn't win his minutes. When you look at how many shots, chances, and goals are created for versus against, especially when you bake in the high acquisition cost, it's a high risk, high reward proposition with Bowen Byram.
Arvin Ojala, in response to what you were saying, yes, but the reward is very high. The reward is very high with Bowen Byram. I don't know. I'd have to see the trade package, and it's hard to just sit here and say, like, obviously I like the player. But if it's an identical package, and do you agree with me that Rasmus Andersson's going to cost more than Bowen Byram on the trade market?
That's tough for me to
Okay, then let's say it's identical.
I don't know.
Let's just say it's identical. If it's identical, I'm for sure picking Rasmus Andersson over Bowen Byram. 100%.
Probably lean toward, especially because of the handedness.
Yeah.
And now normally I'm a guy that goes, give me the RFA that you have team control with longer, but Byram's next contract, which is up this summer, is going to be hefty. That's another part that you would have to really think about is how much bang for buck are you going to get on Byram's next deal? Is he going to fully live up to his next contract?
And your answer is?
I mean, I'd have to do a deep dive.
And you'd also have to see him in Vancouver, too. You'd have to see him.
For sure.
Because right now, like... Have you also heard this idea that he wants to be the number one guy where he goes? Well, sorry, you're playing behind Quinn Hughes if you come here.
Of course not.
So, I don't know. I think I would have some proceed with caution when it comes to Bowen Byram.
Yeah, but it is the type of opportunity that the team should be sniffing around and like diving deeper into, because the bar for the defenseman that the Canucks should be trying to get, they should be trying to find a legit difference maker, not just a number 4-5 defenseman, not just an Alex Carrier type, not just a Will Borgen, but if you're talking about actually moving the needle for this blue line beyond just, okay, this guy will help, to, okay, this defenseman can actually drive a second pair, and now there's less pressure on Hughes and Hronik at the top, then it is going to take a bigger swing. It is going to take a player or a roll of dice like a Byram, like an Anderson, as opposed to, like, it's not going to be Marcus Pettersson or an Ivan Provorov that moves the needle to that extent.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely right. Okay, let's see what else is in the chat here. Okay, here we go. Gustav Nyquist as a deadline pickup. $3.2 million contract. He's expiring this year. Harmon, we talked about how we don't want to see Linus Karlsson playing with Elias Pettersson. The Canucks want a winger. We don't know if they want a top six winger. We don't know if they want a bottom six winger. We really don't know what they want right now, but I've liked Gus Nyquist in the past. Like, do you have any thoughts on him at this age, at this juncture?
Yeah, he's having a tough year in Nashville right now, 12 points in 32 games. Very fair point. Last year, he was like a mid-70s point player as sort of a complementary piece with O'Reilly and Forsberg on that top line. I think he overachieved last year. And
your volume's
the
up
concern, he's a good player, but I'd have to really think long and hard about the stylistic fit, because he's not the quickest skater. He is 35 years old, and I know, okay, it's a rental. How much does a guy's age really matter? But he's old and slow. Even though he's good, he's old and slow.
Yeah, I don't like that style fit with Petey either. Like, you want someone that's going to be able to
need a spark plug
and get him the puck too. Like, you want someone who's going to get the puck to Petey. He does have some finishing ability, though. Like, that's the other thing about Nyquist.
He's a smart player.
Yeah, he is a smart player. I mean, he can't hurt as a deadline pickup. $3.2 million, though, like, that is going to hinder what else you're able to do at the deadline.
Yeah, it just depends on the cost, depends on what other wingers are available, and, of course, your top priority is going to be a defenseman, so what assets do you have left over? What cap space do you have left over? It's, he'd be a name to keep in mind. I just don't look at it as a perfect fit, especially this early.
Okay. Was there anything else in the chat that we missed? Yeah. Okay. I think we're done. I don't see anything else in here. People are not happy with the team right now, and I get it. It's not a good time right now, but their chance to figure it out starts tomorrow against the Senators. Dare I make them the Bet365 bet of the day? I don't think I should. I think that would really piss people off, because remember when I did that?
Yeah, early
and they
in the
were
year,
losing, and then we stopped and they started winning. Let's see. What do we like on Saturdays? Oh, there's games today too. Friday's slate. Let's look at Friday's slate of NHL.
Wow, there are a lot more Friday games than usual.
Usually there's like two.
Ooh, that Ranger Stars game is gonna be fun.
Yeah. Who do we like? Okay. Ooh, there's Saturday too. There's some games here. There's some games. Okay. I'm gonna bet against the Jets on Saturday. On Saturday, the Minnesota Wild take on the Winnipeg Jets. But I'm actually not going to take them because they're at the second leg of a back-to-back. Hang on. I'll find it. I'll find a game.
And they're banged up. Good call.
And they're banged up. I'll find a game. Well, Canucks are pretty heavy favorites against the Senators tomorrow. Let's go with... I apologize, folks. I know this isn't great. Let's go with the New York Islanders. Let's go with the New York Islanders to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. We haven't had a fraudulent Maple Leafs pick in a while. Let's go with the Leafs to lose. We'll go Islanders money line plus 145 odds against the Leafs. That's the one I'm taking. That is our Bet365 bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Okay, we will close it out there for my co-host Harman Dillon and technical producer Jacob Lazar. My name is Dave Virgelli. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.